is anti-American, that is even against Montenegro's ladder towards EU membership. So I think the Albanian population of Montenegro deserves a lot of credit, I think. Rather than to spend money on arms to invade that country, to change the government to do what you want. Money and disagreeing over for the past 20-something years, 24 really since the interim border in Montenegro, on your western border with Albania, and on the southern border, vote rigging and eavesdropping.
Our television broadcast in the Baltics. Mr. Bugajski has authored more than...
We were discussing various historical moments that led up to the creation of the United Nations. And we were also discussing whether the world today is a better place as compared to when the United Nations was initially established. And at the end of the discussion, we came to a conclusion that indeed the world is a better place, having in mind that we have, besides the United Nations, we have NATO, we have the EU, aiming for global peace and collective security. But we also concluded that the world today is also in a race led by two leaders whose personalities, and I'm quoting, resemble high school bullies.
It's always exciting to be back in Kosovo. In fact, I could smell the tear gas near my hotel. It reminds me of my childhood, but you can ask me about that later. I come here about once a month, and I usually have a little bit more time to go around the region. And in fact, I've been covering the Balkans, or the former Yugoslavia, plus Albania, for longer than you've been here. When people ask me, you know, how well do you know Kosovo, I said, well, I know Kosovo longer than you do. There is one flank that is often neglected in NATO. We talk about the eastern flank, the southern flank, even the northern flank with the Arctic. There's one important flank, which is the central flank. In other words, that region within Europe that is surrounded by NATO members, but still faces potential instability and insecurity and even potential war, I would say, in some cases. And that region is here. You're part of that region. Don't worry, I'm not advocating, I'm not saying there's going to be a war here. But there are 4 countries that emerged from the former Yugoslavia that are not yet close to NATO membership for various reasons. Kosovo, of course, because it started late. And it's not recognized by every country yet in the world. It's not part of the United Nations. It will come, but it's not there yet. Secondly, we have Serbia, which doesn't really want to be a part of NATO, at least not for now. At least its politicians don't, even if its generals would prefer to belong to the most modern military organization on the planet. Thirdly, we have Macedonia, which is stuck, as you know, between a rock and a hard place, if you like. In other words, it's stuck because of the name dispute with Greece. And fourth is Bosnia-Herzegovina, which is stuck because of itself. It doesn't function as a fully formed entity, fully formed state, fully formed country that can then move towards NATO membership. Which leaves also these 4 countries have a problem, or yet are far away from European Union membership. So these 2 factors, because I do believe actually the European Union is a factor of stability in the region, and of course NATO is a factor of security in the region. In the best possible world, if you like, the best possible Europe, the 2 would somehow combine to maintain both stability and security and economic growth. So anyway, these 4 countries I look at in my article, and what are the scenarios, potential scenarios of instability? Some of it is clearly indigenous, it is domestic. Some of it, and we mentioned, both of you mentioned Russia, some of it comes from outside the country. Not just, I mean, Russia's the main, I would say, outside destabilizer, but there are others. Jihadism, maybe even the role of Turkey, potentially the role of China in the future. But certainly I would say Russia has been one of the main drivers of, let's say, instability generated from outside. I mean, I think you're all too young to have lived through the wars here, particularly in the 90s. The war in Kosovo came in 99, but even before that, there was a very brutal war 5 years before that in Croatia and then Bosnia-Herzegovina. Most of you are probably too young to remember, but it was a tragic war because it wasn't a war as we think of war. It wasn't a war between 2 armies or 3 armies. It was a war between armies and against civilians. And what is Croatia? Which organization does Croatia belong to? NATO. It's a NATO member. So you immediately draw in a NATO member, maybe to protect, maybe to defend, maybe to attack. Let's say in the name of its kindred in Bosnia-Herzegovina. But as soon as Croatia were to intervene, who else would intervene? I cannot imagine Serbia would sit on the sidelines if Serbs were to be expelled or slaughtered in Republika Srpska. And as soon as you have Serbia in the war, you have Russia behind them, because I cannot imagine Russia staying neutral if there is a shooting war.